Directors are often gardeners or engineers. And I think in the musical theater, you have to be both a gardener and an engineer. You can have the gentleness of gardening, and that's imperative for developing the scene work. And then you have to be a rigid engineer in order to make it all come in on a certain beat.
Let's get this Shaw on the road. Get your snow tires on, come to the Shaw and see both of our Christmas shows. If you love to sing along, White Christmas tickets can't go wrong. If Christmas carols more your mood, I hear the new Bob Cratchit's good. Oh, let's get this Shaw on the road.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey, Spike.
Where are you in your world right now?
Where am I in my world? Well,
I should say
I am
working
in Niagara
world.
on the lake. Yes, yes.
Working world.
It's just where am I? So we're right in the middle of rehearsals for White Christmas. At this point, we're getting pretty close to having an audience at the time that we record this, and it's been great. We all knew coming into this that we had a bit of a truncated rehearsal period. We have less time for this rehearsal.
Yeah. And you've done the show before. This is a remount, is it not?
Yeah, this is the second time that we are doing this production. We did it a couple years ago. It was a great success. People loved it. We loved doing it. And we're lucky enough that it has been brought back for this season. About half of the cast is brand new to it, though. Half of the cast was here in version 1.0, and in version 2.0, we've got a bunch of new additions, which has been great. There's something kind of fun about the mixture of this new, innocent and naive knowledge about a show, combining that with a bit more settled confidence in knowing the piece. And when you put those two things together, I think it creates a really interesting blend of both spontaneity but also groundedness within the world that we're trying to create.
Mm-hmm. What's it like for you to go back to a show? I mean, it's interesting. Like, we have Witness for the Prosecution has been at Drayton Entertainment, and that was a production that we did here at the Shaw Festival. So it's been interesting to step back into that. It's not often that we get to go back to a show. What do you find that journey is for you? What comes up for you when you get to revisit something?
Yeah, it's interesting because when we usually tackle a piece for the first time, when you have your table read, you sit around and you read the script cold for the first time with the cast, you're often hearing things for the first time, but there's a lot of information coming at you that you're trying to process because you haven't quite figured out the world of the piece yet. And my experience this time, and I think specifically back to the table read, is because I knew a lot of the world already, it allowed me to hear things that I thought I knew, but hear them in a new way and hear them for the first time, whether that was because, for whatever reason, my ears open a little bit differently to a piece of dialogue that I'm having. And so I realize, maybe this is the function of this scene, in a way that, you might have been lost to the fray the first time around, or if it's just a new actor interpreting these words or these lyrics for the first time, just naturally we bring something ourselves to every piece. So it's been great. We're deepening it, and I think the result of that will be a show that people really dig.
Yeah, I kind of have that base underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really interesting going back to A Christmas Carol. So I did the original puppetry and movement direction for this back in Norway, like in 2015. We did a production. It's the same designer who came over. We brought all of the puppets and the props and the set pieces along with us. Modifications to the script. Obviously, it was in Norwegian, and so we have a new. We've worked on a script here, an English version. And it's been really interesting. I'd stepped back from the show for a few years, and It's so beautiful coming to see a show every year. I love a tradition like that. I love that there's something that you can go that you look forward to every year. That's that thing. And I know there's so many families and people and groups of friends that coming to see A Christmas Carol is now an embedded part of their Christmas holidays or their holiday traditions. And coming back this year, though, I was really struck by the kind of contrast that exists between White Christmas and A Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol moves very, very fast. It can get a bit frantic and it can get, I think our first half is less than 40 minutes. Like, it's really quick. And I was thinking about how to come back into rehearsals. I love the puppetry. I love working with these puppets so very much. And one of the things that I brought into the first day of rehearsals, I thought, well, what if we tried to actually slow it down? What if, we talk about the cozy and that hygge, which is very Scandinavian, that deep, deep winter, the darkness, the ghost stories, of it all, which Graham mentioned in our Christmas Carol episode. So I kind of brought into the room a bit of not a challenge, but an offer to the company to sort of say, how could we actually slow this down a bit? How could we really get in and get cozy to tell this story together? And so we could slow down the puppetry. We could slow down some of the movement sequences. We could really kind of immerse ourselves in that kind of deeper part of this time of year, which is we've got the solstice. We have a lot of different, there's a lot of different cultures in the Northern Hemisphere that really look at this entry into the cold and the dark as a way of a renewal, right?
I'm just realizing your final performance, I believe, your final performance is on December 21st.
Yes.
And I think that's where the solstice lands this year.
It is. Yep.
Oh, is that ever poetic?
Yep. Right. So it's a real moment of being at that darkest point of the year and telling this ghost story, which is, yes, full of terrible jokes. Terrible jokes,
many.
Kelly.
So many.
You've done the show.
Oh, I love it. I love a good dad joke. My life is a dad joke.
Oh my God. It just it gets under my skin and it hurts.
You mentioned that you and TC were a part of it in its first iteration, 2015.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, it was in Norwegian. Does TC speak Norwegian?
Of course he does.
Oh, he does.
Well, he
Wow.
would say he doesn't, but he understands the etymology because that's the brain he has. So he understands the foundations and he actually wrote his opening night speech. He wrote, and without reading it off the paper, he wrote out his speech for the opening night and spoke it he said it in Norwegian. He spoke in Norwegian.
Oh, that's remarkable.
Yeah. So, and but when you understand foundations of language within that, because his whole world is Latin, right? Anything that comes from that base, any of the languages that are in that base world, he can understand how the patterns work and how they shift with each language. So yes, yeah,
that's fascinating. What an exercise.
Yeah, and we did have someone who was the script writer there, who it was bilingual, so it was a really beautiful exchange between them for that particular script. But then TC brought it here, the production here, but we rewrote and did a lot of work on the script here. So it's very much a new version that has so many more of his jokes.
Oh, I love it.
So many more, Kelly. That's my dry humor face, for those who can't see it.
Why is it that I roll my eyes at Travisito's dad jokes, but I'm like, TC's dad jokes.
Yeah, I don't know. That British accent, maybe. Anyway.
It's a bit more forgiving. So we're moving into the holiday season here. And when I think of the holiday season, I think about things that I do with my family and the traditions. Is there anything that comes to mind for you that you do year in, year out?
Yeah, we are an epic holiday Christmas family here.
Oh, yeah.
And it has been, there have been times, I will confess, that my mother and I might have put on A Christmas Carol or two in October. When it gets cold, there's a certain crispness, a smell that comes in the air out.
What's your go-to? Do you have a go-to album?
Oh, it's a record. It's a record that we would play, and it was called A Family Christmas. And of course, it's just Nat King Cole singing that
Oh, nice.
beautiful Christmas song that kind of crystallizes. But we are, again, that sort of starts early for us. We have a tradition in our house that we, a Sunday, some Sunday afternoon in November, usually after Remembrance Day, we get together and we call it Stirrup Sunday. And all of the family comes over and we make our Christmas cakes or the Christmas pudding for that year. So everyone comes over. My mom makes her very famous eggnog, which is really important that you have a drive home from our house or you're staying the night. But she has a homemade eggnog that she makes, and we all sit around.
Oh, that sounds great.
Friends of friends. And then we all have a little glass that has the brandy that would go into the cake, or sometimes rum, just depends, and orange juice or apple cider for the kiddos. But you would take a sip of your little drink and you would pour in your drink into the cake batter and make a wish. And then you would stir your wish in. So we call it Stirrup Sunday. So you just have a thought or a wish or just something that you want to, send forward to your future self or to things in the future. And you just have that little wish and you just pour your wish in and then you stir your wish into the cake. And so a big family gathering and lots of wishes. And it makes for a delicious cake. Even if you forget to put the eggs in, which sometimes happens because you've had too much eggnog.
The irony.
What about you? What's something that comes to mind as you get closer to the holidays?
Yeah, well, when I was a kid, I grew up in Calgary. And me and my mom and my dad and my brother, we were the only ones from the family to live in Calgary. Everyone else lived up in Edmonton. So many of my memories of Christmas as a kid were that we would wake up on Christmas morning, do the whole tree and presents thing, and then pack ourselves into the car and head up to Edmonton so that we could be there for dinner to celebrate with either my mom's side of the family or my dad's side of the family. Before we would do all that, though, one of the things that's such a strong sense memory for me is my mom, when I was a kid, would often make this breakfast, the same breakfast every Christmas. It was called Christmas Morning Wife Saver, which, it was the 80s.
We got it. Different time, but we celebrated. We
It's
celebrated.
true.
Yeah,
we did. And, it needs a rebranding. But it was delicious. It was like kind of a breakfast casserole deal with like bread and egg and cheese and ham and crushed up cornflakes on top, and it was delicious.
God.
And
Wow.
you put it into the oven while we were opening presents. And so fast forward to now, that is something that I like to make for my family
Because
on Christmas
I think the
morning.
title still sticks then. I think that's you, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, there we go. I am.
You are the Christmas
I am
wife.
I am the Christmas morning lifesaver. Thank you very much. It's also just delicious.
Yeah, if Cosette's listening, there's your Christmas present. We need to get him a T-shirt.
Please don't. Yeah, so and we've started building in the three of us, me, Cosette, and our daughter, a new Christmas Eve tradition where we go out for sushi.
Yes.
Because a few years ago, we were going to make a Christmas goose, and we opened it up. We unwrapped it, and it did not smell like a Christmas goose should smell.
Oh, no.
And we debated, well, it's probably okay, right? We could probably, and then
No.
we wisely made the decision to just
Abandoned
toss
ship.
it, and then ended up at a sushi restaurant. And since then, we're like, why are we not eating sushi every Christmas Eve? It's so much easier, and it's delicious. So,
Yep.
so,
And it's funny, I would say the other holiday thing is working. I've done so many shows at the holiday season that it's also there's something about rehearsing a holiday show, as we do, which started in early October. We're singing the songs and we're doing the steps and we're telling the stories, and that goes straight through to December. And I think that's part of that feeling of getting ready for the holidays too. Is we're in shows, but there's something magical. And I'm sure you've had that experience again, diving into White Christmas. And I'm so excited to talk to Kate and with Allison about their reunion as well, because they've done now Holiday Inn and the first version of White Christmas, and now this remount of White Christmas. You will remember Kate Hennig as the wonderful lead in our gorgeous production of Gypsy. Kate is a multidisciplinary artist with credits ranging from directing Holiday Inn and White Christmas for the Shaw to writing the award-winning Queenmaker trilogy. She is a phenomenal playwright, and she was also on Broadway performing the role of the ballet teacher in Billy Elliot.
And Allison Plamondon's work as a choreographer has been seen on stages across North America, including here at the Shaw Festival for Holiday Inn, White Christmas, and Damn Yankees.
Shall we go see what TC has to say about programming the show again?
Let's do it.
Very shortly after I took on this job, Tim Jennings, the executive director, and I were talking about the Christmas season in Niagara-on-the-Lake and how we have the perfect Christmas village. It looks amazing in the snow. It's not too hard to get to in the winter, unlike other bits of Canada. And everybody loves to have a show to take the family to at Christmas. For many people, it's the only time they really think of going to live theatre is at Christmas. So we immediately put on A Christmas Carol in the Royal George, and then almost as immediately thought of Holiday Inn, which is, of course, the movie. It's one of those trivia questions. In which movie did the song White Christmas first appear? And people say it's White Christmas. No, it was Holiday Inn with Bing Crosby and Fred Astaire. And then 15 years later, they made White Christmas with Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye this time. And they're both delightful movies. And indeed, one of the beauties of doing both musicals is that the one is almost a remake of the other, it has to be said. So White Christmas also features White Christmas. It features many other of the great numbers that people lose their minds for, quite rightly. And it feels like a perfect fit for our beautiful stage, which fits that show so well. It feels like a wonderful thing to create a bit of a tradition with. So we've done Holiday Inn twice now. We're doing White Christmas for the second time. There is something, as we found with Christmas Carol, about a tradition at Christmas that every year we do this on Christmas Eve or whatever. So I'm very happy if people make White Christmas, or indeed the Shaw's Christmas offering, their traditional thing to do in the holiday season. I'm particularly pleased that we're bringing the creative team back with Kate Hennig as director and Judith Bowden, designer, Paul Sportelli with the music, Kevin Lamotte doing the lighting, and of course Allison Plamondon recreating the remarkable dance sequences, especially the tap sequence for I Love a Piano, which I think was the first time we've experienced an in-show standing ovation at the Shaw. We've got used to them now because, of course, this year Anything Goes gets one every time it plays. But the tap number, I Love a Piano, in White Christmas is just not to be missed. So bringing back all those people to recreate that magic with many of the original cast, but also some bright, shiny new people, is pretty much the perfect combination.
My father was a Lutheran minister. And yes, the church is a form of theater, of course. And so I got very used to, as a very small child, being in public, being even in front of public from the time I was about 4, doing Christmas shows for, like a Christmas Eve service and things like that at the church. I was singing in a choir when I was 5. My mom says before I could read the words of the songs, I would get my mom to teach me what the words were. And then I would learn the songs and sing in the choir with my older brother and sister. Yeah, so that form of theater was ever present in my youth. And my parents also were very interested in taking us to the theater. I was born in England, and we had the tradition of British Music Hall was very alive in the church that I went to. The town that I was born in was a little satellite town around London. It was a new town that was built to house people whose homes were destroyed during the war. And so it was full of young couples with young children. And though my parents were both Canadian, they were working over there to build the first Lutheran church that was in England since Elizabeth I.
No way. What?
Yeah, well, it was
Good Lord.
Yeah, right. It was an interesting time in the late 1950s, early 1960s. With the access to theater that you have in the UK, my parents took us to things. But then they continued to do that when we moved back to Alberta and in Edmonton. I remember going to see La Boheme and Rigoletto when I was 7 and falling asleep. But finding the music the next, day in my music book and playing it on the piano.
Right. So when did you start performing?
Like I would say I had a solo in church when I was 4, and I was singing.
And it was up from there.
Yeah, well, it was, I'll say it was steady from there, Spike, right?
I bet. Yes.
So it was church, and then it was school, and then all through high school and so on.
And did you end up going back to the UK to train or do things over there?
Like I always went back over there. When I was at Stratford, I got a Guthrie Award to study with Patsy Rotenberg. So I studied privately with Patsy Rotenberg.
No way.
Yeah. I had,
What?
I know.
Like the guru of voice and speaking in theater and in life.
Yeah.
You had private coaching sessions with Patsy Rotenberg.
Yeah, she is absolutely one of the foremost teachers of vocal technique for actors. She coached Margaret Thatcher, to sort of drop her pitch so that she could be more accessible vocally to people. Yeah, anyway, Patsy. Yeah,
very cool.
But that was a huge bite for me. Was when I worked with Patsy. She really changed my life because I really got into doing Shakespeare then.
That's amazing. Okay, Allison, what about you? Where did this journey start for you?
Thanks. And Kate, it's so nice to hear that in one epic biopic. It's so beautiful. My way into theater is via dance, and I definitely was that baby banging the pots and pans together and boogieing at home. So I was put into dance, and my mom tells me a story about wearing the neighbors' shoes, like they didn't want to dance anymore. So it's very, what is that? I Can Do That from Chorus Line, when the sisters' shoes don't fit, and then anyway. So I was put into dance quite early.
Where were you dancing?
I grew up in Edmonton, so Castle Downs, which is an area of Edmonton that used to be, when I was growing up, it was the northwest corner of Edmonton. But now Edmonton is, every time I go back, I was just there a few weeks ago, and it is sprawled out, I'll tell you. And Kelly's from Alberta too, I'm sure.
I was going to say, I feel very much in the minority here right now.
Yeah,
like here I am on the
prairies
East Coast and there's like this landscape of prairie folk in front of me.
Yeah, right. And the difference is that it can grow, right? It can grow sideways. Kate, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just when I lived in Edmonton, I lived also in Castle Downs. My family was like some of the first people in that area. My mom and dad bought a house in Castle Downs. Allison and I have gone through this, but yes, we were raised very close to each other.
You've been oscillating around each other for a little while before the actual union of perfection arrived, right?
So I danced, and I was put into jazz and ballet, and it was a competitive dance studio. So as I started to get more interested in that, I had to take more ballet, which I did not like at all. I found it very rigid. And a teacher once told me that in ballet, I look like I'm going to a funeral.
Oh, dear.
I really appreciate ballet now. As I age, I'm really astounded by the virtuosity and beauty of it and the escape and the connection to music, but then not so much. So, and then I started tap very late. I think I was a late 11.
But in perspective, in the dance world, yes.
Yes. I remember starting tap and feeling like it was like math, and it was something that I could do. It made perfect sense to me. And also I was very strong, but I wasn't very flexible. And so this was a dance discipline that I could do, anybody could do it. And I still have that point of view now. I'd love to teach adults, and it just seems so accessible to me as it was then. So I did many disciplines. And then in that time, I might have been the same age, around 11 or 12, that we had a field trip to go to the Citadel Theater. And we saw The Miracle Worker. And honestly, that touched me on the deepest level. Dance has continued to be a really strong thread in my life, but this is where I really fell in love with storytelling. I thought it was magic, absolute magic. And also there was something even then so healing about it. Seeing a family on stage, going through a thing, dealing with these obstacles in a period that was not my own. I just thought it was incredible. So I still look for that magic in everything and want to see The Miracle Worker all the time too. Why now? They don't do it enough.
It's such a beautiful piece. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also went to the Citadel and had a formative experience when I was about that age, Al. Only the show that I saw was The Last of the Red Hot Lovers. Slightly different.
The other classic in the canon.
Exactly. But I'll tell you what I remember. I went to the Citadel when it was in the old space, before the new theater was built at all. And it was in like an old fire hall or something like that. It was in an old building. And I remember that it had a revolve. And I remember that my family and some of the audience members got to stay afterwards. And Sean Malkai, who had been in the play and who also was the artistic director at the Citadel at the time, showed us how the revolve worked. And I have never forgotten that you would see one piece of scenery, and then this thing would turn and you'd see another piece of scenery, and then it would turn and you'd see another. And there were 3 sets on this little pie. And I just was like, oh, this is a magic place. This is a place where magic happens.
So how did you find your way to the Shaw Festival, Kate?
Many years ago, I was a Shaw Festival wife. I had a partner who was at the Shaw Festival. I tried desperately to get into the Shaw Festival, but I was not a very smart actor when I was younger. And I didn't do any of the right material for Christopher Newton. But eventually I worked with Christopher and I really enjoyed it. And he and I had a wonderful conversation about, those times. He said to me, "Oh, darling, how did I not see you? How did I not see you?" And I was like, "Well, you didn't see me for good reason. I was not to be seen at that point, in the 80s. But eventually I was around the Shaw. I got to know Christopher, reasonably well through my partner. And then my first season was 2005. So 20 years ago, I
Wow.
covered Nora McClellan in Gypsy. And I
Wow.
played Miss Cratchit, is it Cratchit? Yeah, the secretary. And I was the cover for Nora for Rose. So
Oh
that
my
was
gosh, that's a full circle moment for
I
you.
know, right?
Having played, like, what?
Yeah.
That's so wild that you would come back and do that production.
20 years later.
20 years. Oh, wow.
Too old.
Oh, isn't that the life, though? Ain't that the thing? What about you, Allison? When did the Shaw Festival cross your path?
Kate brought me in. This is just going to continue to cross over.
It's unbelievable.
Kate and I met, she was my tap student, actually, in Toronto.
What?
We
True.
met-
Absolutely true.
True. Yes. Is that true, Kate?
That is true, Allison. What you have said is just true, that I was your tap student. Yep.
Thank you. And a wonderful tap student. And then we had a period where we were bartering for tap and voice coaching.
Oh, that's a good setup.
Which was really beautiful. And then, of course, got to know each other. I would say when we spent the most time together was when Kate came to star on Broadway in Billy Elliot. I was living there. And I had just moved there about 3 years before. And so I feel like we really became friends then and could spend time together, get to know each other. So then one day I got an incredible email from Kate asking if I would be interested in Holiday Inn. And here's the script. And I mean, I didn't need to read the script to say yes, but it was also a really exciting script with such a sharp script, really fast paced, and the dance, the versatility of the movement and the musical numbers. I was just like, oh, this is going to be so fun. And some tap dancing too. So
What is it like to work together? What is that relationship between the two of you? Maybe take us through a bit of the process of how do you find your way, director, choreographer, into laying the landscape for this beautiful musical?
Allison puts up with me. I do so I'm going to now, I know, I'm going to just demonstrate that this is me doing my choreography. And I say to her, okay, so something like this, I think something like this.
So little action, a little extra action that has your arms going in and out
That's
in
right.
a particular way.
And it's really completely not dancing. And I'll say something like this, Allison, something like this. And then she, as the talk about miracle worker, and she computes that somehow and makes it into the most glorious state, not just choreography, because Allison is a brilliant choreographer, but her staging is also really of the highest level,
That's really beautiful. Okay, so we've got this production of White Christmas, and you're both here doing it again. What do you remember from the first time that you did it? What were some of your memories from that first time that you did the production?
I would start to say that it was the same creative team that had done Holiday Inn. So Kevin Lamott, Judith Bowden, and John Lott was with us too. But earlier in the process, I remember sitting around in the green room speaking about Blue Skies in particular, and was just like, I could feel that I was breathing. And so that's one thing. There was a comfort with the creative team and also real respect that was always there and inspiration from each other. And I know that Holiday Inn had that too, but I found it really palpable with the White Christmas prep because we had established a vocabulary. We could reference our process from last time, staging, choreography, blocking, design. That familiarity was really exciting.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Kate? What do you remember from that first time round?
Well, I would say also that what was imperative and important for these two productions, Holiday Inn and then White Christmas, is that in a way they are sister productions. So we started with a concept in Holiday Inn, which was as if what I wanted Judith to find was, in terms of the design, was the feeling that we were receiving a postcard from the past. The set itself looks a little bit like a postcard. The images are like they're cut out of paper, right? Like the house is two-dimensional. The inn is two-dimensional. The trees are two-dimensional. All of that was actually what I wanted it to be. I wanted it to look like it could have been drawn for a postcard from that period. So picking up White Christmas then was taking that idea and moving it about 20 years forward because it's set in the 1950s, whereas Holiday Inn is set in the 1930s. So then it was just sort of jazzing it up a bit. So how could we put some chrome into this set, bring some of those ideas, the whole thing of the Ed Sullivan Show, and making it a little bit groovy, so those kinds of, spruce ups of the set and the costumes. And I remember Allison and I also talking about skirt lengths, with Judith, and what skirt length was going to be the correct one for which number and so on.
Right. Fun.
Those are things that are really fun about the process of beginning.
So what is it about this time around? It is something to come back to a production, to have a chance to remount it, to look at what are those choices you made in the past and what you want to do with it this time around. Although in a way it needs to be in keeping, because that's part of you sort of don't get a whole new set design and a whole new costume design. What are you looking forward to as you come back to this production all these years later?
Allison and I sat down and watched the video together when we were at Shaw about a month ago. And it was so gratifying to watch the video and see what a beautiful piece of entertainment we had created, a beautiful love story, a magnificent story of dance, magnificent songs by Irving Berlin. All of those wonderful things to revisit and to reinvigorate. So those parts of it were really exciting to reconnect with.
Yeah, it is such a gift to have the chance to reconnect with it, with the piece and the people making the piece. We're inviting some new friends in too.
That's right. I was going to ask, you don't have, how many of the cast? Do you have many of the cast returning? And do you have a whole bunch of new folk coming in?
We have some returning and some new ones. Yeah,
right,
and we're excited about everyone. I think it's going to be exciting. Bring some fresh air. And also what I was going to say is digging into it is quite daunting. As Kate said, we were gratified looking at this beautiful production. And also when I started to, start to raconteur, I was like, we made this? This is epic. How do we do this in this short of time? And it really is a raconteur. Like that's a term they would use in ballet a lot, meaning I'm just going to watch the archive video, figure out what they're doing, reteach it. So that's its own skill. Something I guess I'm practiced in because I grew up in the days of video, but I don't know if anyone's really good at it. It takes a lot of time. So the challenge for me has been to remind myself what the intention is of this movement. Why did we do this? Oh, it looks so nice when they do it. What does nice mean, right? Like what is the image? Was it a cloud? Was it? And then I did, thankfully, my notes are not linear, if you can imagine, but they were there. I opened Blue Skies and it had all of these random notes that I was like, oh, this is important. I can use this not only to get it into my body again, but to share it with new people. So that's my main concern is like, okay, shuffle, ball change, shuffle, step is one thing, but why are we doing this? Like the Ed Sullivan tap number is very different than I Love a Piano, and just remembering why. And maybe it's different this time, but to make sure that we go to that depth to figure that out.
That the story is still underneath. I mean, that's one of the things I know that the three of us have nerded out about this conversation, about the beauty of the way musicals function in their storytelling, in their mechanisms of speaking to singing to dancing, that there is a sense that there's progression, there's momentum, there's intention, there's thought, there's feeling, and that each of those steps along the way, the transitions of the why are really a glue in a way. And Kate, I'm curious, because you've had this incredible versatile career. You have been an actor in musicals and performer on Broadway. You're an award-winning playwright, and now you're in this directing world. And what is it for you to direct musicals? What is it in that gives you that joy and that coming back to that thing?
I think musical theater is its own form. I think it's important that the people who are at the helm of directing a musical actually respect that form and admire that form, enjoy that form, understand that form. The form is really important. And I don't think just anyone can do it. Myself, I don't. Richard Azunian said to me once, rocket science is easy, musical theater is hard.
I appreciate that comment.
I
very
do
much.
too.
Yep.
And it is hard. It's when we talk about triple threats, we toss that sort of name out there. But the fact is, it means that you have to be really good at 3 different skill sets, and you need to be able to combine them in a performance. And TC sometimes says directors are often gardeners or engineers. And I think in the musical theater, you have to be both a gardener and an engineer. You can't be one or the other. It is not a pastoral subject matter, It is like you can have the gentleness of gardening, and that's imperative for developing the scene work. And then you have to be a rigid engineer in order to make it all come in on a certain beat, because the lights have to go on this beat. This piece of furniture has to land on this beat, and the people have to begin moving up that furniture on the next beat. So it's extremely complicated in terms of the engineering once you get to the stage. And I love that. I think I'm a good gardener, but I love the engineering part. It's just, it's exciting and challenging.
Yeah, and that's what you were saying earlier, Allison, about the maths. Like the maths that's in tap and that's in dance. There's so much maths. And is that something like as a choreographer and your way into choreographing musicals is very different than doing a dance piece, right? It's very different putting together a piece for competition or for recital. Choreographing a musical is a very different thing.
Yeah, it is. But what I love about it is there's a script, a parameter. And then with all the moving parts, usually the design is done. Sometimes I start work coinciding with the design, but really once design has started, and I'm speaking set primarily at this moment, then I can feel like not only math comes in, but for me, it's very much about geometry. I'm really interested in how bodies move as a group on the stage, or where we can put these dance breaks so that it's not just 3 in the front, 3 behind them, doing a stationary dance break, leaving. Like that's a strong tool, of course. but finding ways to tell story that subverts that, or not on purpose, but because the story dictates it. So I love the moving parts. And White Christmas is an outstanding example of that. Like, they built it to be choreographically diverse in spectacle, but also, to me, in style. So my job is to really like pull it like taffy and make everything as different as possible. I was saying to Kate, when we were watching the archive, I was getting irritated. I'm very proud of my work. And I was like, why'd I do that again? Why'd we do this? And we're talking about movement vocabulary. And it's pretty minute, but still I'm looking this time to, okay, well, I can change that or something.
Right. And I guess that's a real gift to go back into a production where, we never really get that chance in the theater. And maybe we do very, blessedly at the Shaw, because we are in this rep. We have these long running things. We can make these adjustments. We can come back to these productions. But it is a almost non-existent thing. We are a one and done art form so often, especially just for affordability, that we never get that chance to kind of go through and improve upon those first decisions or that first pass, or that we get to go back and shape and take our paintbrush back to the canvas and go, oh, maybe I'll reshape that, or maybe there's a bit more over there, and that kind of diving in. This is a really joyful moment of being able to go back into that. It's really exciting. I can't wait to see the production again. I'm so excited. Which brings me to holiday traditions. There are a lot of people who make their way, they could be listening to this podcast on their way to the Shaw Festival right now, coming to see the holiday musical, because that's now one of their holiday traditions. And I'm wondering, do you each have a holiday tradition or a favorite part about the holidays that you love and look forward to as you get ready for the season?
When you said that, I'm picturing a romantic ideal of the holidays, getting ready for the holidays. And my picture is living in a city, which I've done all my life, but in particular, New York and Toronto and Niagara-on-the-Lake as well, is snow falling in a city and walking at the pre-Christmas window displays, the beauty of that.
Yep.
With a warm drink. I think that's a nice tradition, going for a walk with a friend, catching up with people that are on your list, right? You're like, oh, I can't not see you before the year is over. So, and seeing shows has to do with that too. I find my way to A Christmas Carol accidentally, I'd say every other year. Yeah, I love seeing theater every season, but especially in the holiday season.
Kate, what about you?
I think for me, it's mostly family. I agree with Allison. The snow, when it's clean, white snow and not brown slushy snow. But when the snow is crisp and clean, it really is quite wonderful during the holiday season with all the lights. In Stratford, which is where I am, we have now a tradition called Lights on Stratford. There's a whole series of places that you can go to look at lights that the town puts up. And then everyone as well on the streets has their lights on as well. So it can be quite beautiful. Oh, that just reminds me, during the pandemic, when it was very difficult at Christmas, and I went and got my mom and dad from Waterloo, who were in there. My dad was just about 90, I guess, and my mom about 87. And I got all of my friends to come out of their little, because we were isolated, right? So they came out in their little pods to the sidewalk and sang Christmas carols. And we drove around. I made a schedule of when we would arrive at their home with my mom and dad in the car, and they came out onto their porch and they sang a Christmas carol and we waved and then we moved on. And it was so that's a sort of it's not a tradition, but it's one of my fondest memories of a time that was extremely difficult. And my father has been gone for a year now, and so I'm also I always think of him when it comes to Christmas and holidays and yeah, so that's a nice memory of when we were all in the car together singing Christmas carols.
But so beautiful. My goodness. Okay, last question for both of you. We always ask at the end if there's an Easter egg in the production or something that we should watch for, or we get there and, this number's happening. And, I love the idea, again, like the Holiday Inn set, just thinking about it as a postcard. And I know this is White Christmas, but thinking like, how has that been amplified? Where are those chrome moments? What are those skirt lengths? That kind of stuff. Is there something in the production or a little moment that we should watch out for that is maybe your favorite or something that would give us the inside scoop?
They're actually, we actually planted Easter eggs in White Christmas because we had Holiday Inn beforehand. So Mike actually walks across the stage with one of the Easter bonnets from Easter Parade in Holiday Inn.
Yes.
So Mike
Perfect.
is the stage manager in White Christmas, the character of the stage manager, and so at one point he walks through an onstage rehearsal with this prop from Holiday Inn. So that's
awesome.
Kind of fun.
Awesome. Allison?
Kate, do we have the cast special moments on the set for White Christmas, or was that Holiday Inn that everybody brought something that was meaningful?
Yeah, both shows.
Both shows. Yeah. So we have, do you want to describe that, Kate, if I'm doing it justice?
Yeah, it comes from a tradition of self-location, which it's a technique that Murray Sinclair used to help Indigenous youth to just to be aware of who they are in any given situation and bring them their whole selves to whatever it is they're engaging in. So one of the techniques of this self-location is to bring an item that describes where you come from. And where you come from can be like where you came from on the bus to get here. It can be what your philosophy is, like where you're coming from. It can be where you were born. It can be something about your journey on the way. But you bring just a little totem, just something that fits in the palm of your hand. And you bring that, you tell a very brief story about it to the group, and then place it in a box. And then everyone in the cast and the stage management does this, puts these things in the box. And then we put the box on stage in Martha's little reception desk.
Oh, wow.
So that where you come from and your self-location is always on the stage with you at all times, somewhere on the stage. So, yeah, it's a nice little, Wayne Mengesha was the first person who I knew who did that and Wayne's just finishing off her artistic direction at Soul Pepper right now. That's the first person who I worked with who did that, that beautiful little tradition.
Well, I am feeling so holiday-tastic right now. I think it's going to be very difficult for me not to end this conversation and go put my Christmas carols on. But so what? I want to thank you both for this really beautiful, enlightening conversation about your journey through not only this production, the idea of remounting, but your careers and the how-tos and your own journeys on where you've been from and now here and finding ourselves together as we re-enter this process. So thank you so much for chatting with us today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you both in the building in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Alexis. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you. What a treat.
White Christmas is playing until December 21st. Tickets available at shawfest.com.
A big thank you to Kate Hennig and Allison Plamondon for joining us, and thank you as always for listening. If you have any questions, thoughts, or just want to say hello, drop us a line at podcast@shawfest.com. We love hearing from you.
Let's Get This Shaw on the Road is hosted by Alexis Milligan and produced by me, Kelly Wong. Original music by Travis Cito. We're available wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you're listening to, subscribe and leave us a review. Next week is our special episode on the history and the legacy of the Royal George Theatre. We hope to see you then.
Let's get this show on the road.